Next example, when she's rushing, she says ki. She say she says ki. That's how it's. So that's the dubbing. That's the translations. That's Hi everyone, welcome to Language Speaks. I'm Neha. Today's episode is about some insight on translations. So, for those of you who are already learning the language and are keen on doing translations, I'm going to give you some information on the same. What we are going to do today is I am going to play two clips from a very popular web series. So one will be in Hindi and the other one will be dubbed in German. And then let's analyze both the languages together and see what we learn from it. So for all the keen learners, this will be a good practice where you can take another scene from your favorite movie or a web series and try translating that in German. So let's get started and watch the first clip in Hindi.
श्री, तुमने अपने टैबलेट्स ली या नहीं? मैंने वहाँ टेबल पर रख दी थी।
हाँ, ले लिया।
बिजली का बिल भरा कि नहीं? डिस्कनेक्शन का नोटिस आया है।
अरे मैं क्या था यार, काउंटर बंद हो गया।
बहाने मत बनाओ।
अरे
ऑनलाइन होता है आजकल सब कुछ। और सुनो, आज तुम बच्चों को ड्रॉप कर दोगे?
नहीं, मैं नहीं कर सकता यार।
श्रीकांत, बच्चों का सारा काम A to Z मैं करती हूँ। आज एक दिन तुम्हें कुछ करने को बोला है और तुम मेरा एक जॉइंट क्लास है, मैंने प्रिपेयर भी नहीं किया है। श्री प्लीज श्री, आज एक दिन प्लीज। कृति, स्टॉप इट।
Mom, I don't like idlis.
अरे तुम्हें तो पसंद है ना, इसीलिए सांबार है, चटनी है, पूरी है, और क्या डालूं इडली में?
Mom, I don't like ghee anymore.
तुम लोगों को बस सड़क का खाना पसंद है। जब तक गंदगी पेट में नहीं जाता ना, पेट नहीं भरता है। खाओ चुपचाप।
भूख नहीं है।
लंच तक भूखी रहोगी। यहाँ लोगों को खाने को नहीं है और मैडम के नखरे खत्म नहीं होते।
मैं सैंडविच बना दूं?
तुम ही इन दोनों को बिगाड़ रहे हो।
I'm not bigadufied. I love idli suchi.
I know Karnal, that's why you're the sweetest. ओके चलो, मैं निकल रही हूँ। बाय।
Bye, Suchi.
मैं सोची खाइए। चल।
Pa,
हाँ,
I don't like cheese.
गुस्ताखी माफ हो महारानी साहिबा, गलती हो गई। बाहर रास्ते से कुछ लेके आओ।
Yes. I want McDonald's.
So for those who understand Hindi, the scene was self-explanatory. But for those who don't understand Hindi, the scene is about a family who is getting ready for work and the kids are getting ready to go to school and the parents are discussing what tasks need to be done. The kids need to be dropped off to school and basically the daily routine of their life. Now let's have a look at the same scene but dubbed in German.
श्री, hast du deine Tabletten genommen? Ich habe sie auf den Tisch gestellt.
हाँ यार, ist gut।
Warst du die Stromrechnung bezahlen? Sie wollen ihn sonst abschalten.
Ich war gestern da, aber der Schalter war geschlossen.
Komm hier nicht mit Ausreden.
Mach ich nicht.
Heutzutage geht sowas online. Noch etwas. Kannst du die Kinder zur Schule bringen?
Nein, ich habe keine Zeit.
Schrikant, was die Kinder angeht, bleibt sowieso alles an mir hängen. Kannst du mir nicht heute einmal helfen? Ich habe heute eine Doppelklasse und bin nicht vorbereitet. Schrie, bitte. Bitte, Schrie. Nur heute mal. Bitte. Hör auf damit, Reti. Keine Handys.
Kann ich
Mom, ich mag keine Idli. Ach so, die mochtest du doch früher. Deshalb stehen hier Samba und Chutney und Poli. Was willst du noch auf deinem Idee haben?
Ma, ich mag kein Ghee mehr.
Ihr Kids mögt nur noch diesen Junkfood-Scheiß. Wenn ihr nicht aus einer Pappschachtel essen könnt, seid ihr nicht zufrieden. Esst auf.
Ich schaff das nicht.
Willst du bis mittags hungern? Viele Menschen haben gar nichts zu essen. Und Madame hier muss rumzicken.
Soll ich Sandwiches machen?
Du verwöhnst die beiden zu sehr.
Ich bin nicht verwöhnt. Ich liebe Idli Sushi.
Ich weiß, Süßer, deshalb bist du auch ein Schatz. Okay, ich muss los. Wir sehen uns nachher. Bis dann.
Bis dann, Sushi.
Bis dann, Sushi. Ist das? Hey, iss auf.
Pa,
Hä?
ich mag keinen Käse.
Vergebt mir, Hoheit. Ich habe einen Fehler gemacht. Zu dumm von mir. Soll ich lieber was vom Imbiss holen?
Ja.
Ich will McDonald's. Das heißt, ich mach die
Right, so did you follow the German clip? I'm sure you did. You all know the language. Let's move on to analyze both the clips, the Hindi and the German. So the first pointer for you, the tone of the language. If you notice, Hindi is spoken more slowly and it also sounds a little more courteous. Even if the wife is rushing and telling the husband that he needs to do certain things, he needs to drop off the kids or whatever, she still sounds polite and courteous. Whereas in German, if you notice, because of the syllables, the emphasis on the syllables that they do, like the CH, so nach and auch and ish, certain words, they come from the epiglottis, or how they emphasize the ts, the letter z, ts. So because they have a lot of emphasis on different syllables, it does come across as she's talking very harsh or very affirmative or very straight. Although she is also being polite in German, where she's saying bitte, which means please, which goes for Hindi as well, where she's saying, please, can you drop the kids off? So this is like a basic difference between the tone of the two languages. So next pointer is liberty of not using the words which literally mean the same in Hindi, but keeping the context same. I'll give you a few examples in this. So in Hindi, when the wife says, तुमने तुम्हारी tablets लिए कि नहीं? So she's asking if you've taken the tablets or not. But in German, she says, hast du deine Tabletten genommen? So she's not asking or not. She's just asking, have you taken the tablets? तुमने तुम्हारे tablets लिए? That's the translator's liberty. तुमने तुम्हारे tablets लिए कि नहीं? If it's okay if the ki nahi has been left out. Hast du deine Tabletten genommen? It still stays in the context of the dialogue. Similarly, when she asks him, Bijli ka bill bhara ki nahi? Again, ki nahi is in the Hindi version, but whereas in German, she asks, Hast du die Rechnung bezahlt? This means, have you paid the bill? That's it. Again, ki nahi or not has been left out, which is alright, still stays in the context. When she's rushing, she says that, can you drop the kids off? मेरी यहाँ joint class है. So for us, joint class could mean maybe she's taking a joint class with some other professor. But it could also mean that joint means that two classes are one after the other. And in German, she says, Ich habe eine Doppelklasse heute. Doppel is the literal meaning of Doppel is double, a double class. So double class doesn't equate directly to joint class, but again, it's a liberty and contextually you know what it means. Another example, when Shri says, counter band ho gaya tha. That means the counter was closed. But in German, he says, der Schalter war nicht aus. The literal translation of that is, the counter was not open. But it means the same. the counter was not open equates to the counter was closed. So this is another liberty taken where he didn't have to be exact of what the Hindi version was, as long as the context was made clear. Another one. So when Suchi tells him to drop the kids, she says, "Bachon ko drop kar do." And the German version of it says, "Kannst du die Kinder zur Schule bringen?" Kannst du die Kinder zur Schule bringen? That the translation of that would be, "Can you drop the kids to the school?" So the word school is used in the German language, whereas in Hindi, when she says, "Bachon ko drop kar do," so in Hindi, when she says "bachon ko drop kar do," it implies that they need to be dropped off to the school because they are wearing their school uniforms at the breakfast table. In Germany, there is no tradition of wearing school uniforms to school. So just to make it more specific, they have used the word school in that sentence. Another one. Just when she says, "Bachon ko school drop kar do," his reply is, "Nahi, main nahi kar sakta." So he just says that, "I can't do it." But the German translation is, "Nein, ich habe keine Zeit." So the literal translation of that is, "No, I have no time." So when in Hindi he's saying, "Nahi, nahi, main nahi kar sakta," again the rush is an implication of that he doesn't have time, but he hasn't literally said those words. But again, this is a translator's liberty. It actually means the same when he says, "Ich habe keine Zeit," I have no time. It means that he can't do it. Another one. When the kids are fussy about the breakfast, so in Hindi, she says, "Tum logo ko sirf sadak ka khana pasand hai." And whereas in German, she says, "Ihr mögt nur junk food essen." So junk food is a universal term for, burgers and pizzas and stuff like that. Whereas sadak ka khana is actually street food. So in Mumbai or in India, street food would equate to like a pani puri or a bhel puri or a vada pav, something like that. But obviously for the German audience, it would be difficult to understand that culture because they wouldn't have it there. So that's why the word junk food is used, so that they know what it equates to. Also, with these differences, if you've noticed, they have kept the name of the food items same. They haven't equated that to something the Germans would know. So the idli, the sambar, the chutney, the podi. In German, she says those same words. Right. So these were some of the subtle differences in both the languages. Moving on to the next pointer. So if you've noticed, Hindi, the language Hindi is used in a more colloquial way. So when they are talking, they have a mix of English words in it to make it look more natural, because that's how we all speak these days, don't we? We don't speak in Shuddha Hindi or Shuddha regional languages anymore. We do use a lot of English words and sentences here and there in between. But if you notice the German translation or the dubbed version, you see they have strictly stuck to their language, because that's what they really do. They don't incorporate any English or any other European words as a mixture of their language. So their vocab is really, really vast because they stick to only their language. And the last point for today. What is the new vocab that we've learned from these videos today? So to name a few, Stromrechnung. Die Stromrechnung means the electricity bill. Aufhören. Aufhören. When the mother tells the daughter to stop it or stop using the phone. Hör auf. To stop. It is a verb. Aufhören means to stop. And while leaving, she says, bis dann. Bis dann means see you or tschüss. Another one. Der Schalter. Der Schalter means the counter where you go to pay the bill. their shelter. As you've noticed, translation is also done keeping in mind the culture of the target language and taking few liberties here and there, but keeping the context same. I hope this information is of help to you guys and you can use this, implement this method of taking a clip from your favorite show and trying to translate this using these pointers that I've mentioned, taking those liberties that you want, and you can drop me a comment below if you do that. I hope you've liked this episode. Please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe and hit the bell icon for notification. Until I see you next time, auf Wiedersehen. Bis dann!